Breaking news right now, the shooting at a major hospital. At least 2 people shot inside, the entire campus on lockdown. Dozens of people walking out with their hands up. Officers in tactical gear rushing in. Dozens of law enforcement surrounding the building. Our reporter live at the scene. Also tonight, the chilling new details of an alleged plot to attack the White House UFC event. Plans for explosive drones and snipers to target top officials and billionaires at that event. 5 suspects arrested. The urgent manhunt tonight for others. We're also tracking dangerous floods ravaging the Gulf Coast. Passengers rescued holding on to a rope. Floods nearly topping car roofs. This woman saved just before her car is submerged. Plus, what could be the first named storm of the season. We'll show it to you. The deadly B-52 bomber crash, 8 killed, and now the widow of 1 crew member telling our Liz Kreutz the plane should have never flown. Were previous takeoffs delayed? The baby shot and killed by police after officers responded to a shoplifting call at a Walmart. One witness saying it was all over a box of diapers. Bombshell new reporting on Jeffrey Epstein's death. What 2 of his cellmates reveal about his final days. The new video of the Washington reflecting pool, now bright green, just days after the president's multi-million-dollar project to turn it blue. Can the algae be removed? Dramatic video, the U.S. Coast Guard leaping onto a runaway boat. What happened next? Are Scottish fans drinking Boston Dry? The bars running out of beer as World Cup mania kicks into high gear. And there's good news tonight, the heartwarming surprise send-off for a beloved high school janitor. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Llamas.
And good evening. It is great to have you with us tonight. We want to start with that breaking news. We know 2 people have been shot after a gunman opened fire at a Wilmington, Delaware hospital. That hospital saying it's in lockdown right now as police look for a possible shooter. And take a look at this chopper video right now. We're just getting in a huge police response with dozens of people being led out of the hospital with their hands up. Is happening right in the heart of Wilmington. I want to get right over to Johnny Archer from our Philadelphia station, NBC 10, who's at the scene for us right now. Johnny, what do you know?
Well, as you mentioned, Tom, Wilmington police tell us that 2 people were shot inside ChristianaCare's Wilmington Hospital around 3:30 this afternoon. They would not give us an update or a status on the shooter, but as you can see behind me, people are starting to exit the hospital campus. Now, ChristianaCare officials tell us that the hospital was put on lockdown when the shooting happened and after the shooting happened. But we did notice, and you noticed from the video that you showed a little bit earlier, Tom, that people were exiting the hospital with their hands up. We noticed a lot of people coming out of this main entrance where we are right now. And those people have since, many of them have gotten in their cars. And as you can see, they're leaving the perimeter right now of the hospital. But we are expecting an update from Wilmington police around 7:30 this evening to hopefully find out more about the condition of the victims, also the status of the suspect and the why this shooting happened. Tom?
Still so many questions. Johnny Archer there live at the scene for us. Johnny, we thank you for that. We turn out of that plot to attack the UFC event at the White House, foiled by the FBI, and now the manhunt for more suspects. Kelly O'Donnell has the latest on the investigation.
This White House celebration, a UFC fight to mark the nation's 250th birthday, the alleged target for a disturbing, potentially deadly conspiracy. Foiled by federal agents who say they arrested 5 suspects in Ohio, Missouri, California, and Nebraska. But more remain at large.
It was an active plot, and it's ongoing.
Officials say the suspects coordinated on TikTok and various encrypted chats. Their twisted plan, officials say, would fly drones with explosives over the event to force the crowd to evacuate. And then snipers would fire as the high-value targets fled, including the president, billionaire guests, and a list of Republican lawmakers whom one suspect said took contributions from AIPAC, the American lobbying group that advocates for Israel.
It's a terrorist plot. That's not a few guys doing crazy stuff. That is a coordinated, planned terrorist plot.
19-year-old Tyson Proper of Ohio is among those arrested and charged with federal conspiracy and attempted murder. According to a criminal complaint, Proper's mother alerted police, concerned that her son quit his job and spent $3,000 of his graduation money to buy weapons and gear, including this rifle painted with an American flag, while posting anti-Semitic comments on Facebook. Another suspect, 32-year-old married father of 5 Daniel Eskridge of Missouri, posted a photo of his tactical gear and wrote, "When it's go time, I'll have to leave them behind in hopes I can return with a brighter future for them." The motivation? Tyson Proper told authorities this attack was designed to jumpstart a revolution in the United States.
Kelly joins us now. And Kelly, the search for suspects is still ongoing tonight?
That's right. A dozen FBI field offices and U.S. Secret Service have been working this case, and they're in pursuit of 9 other potential suspects who have been identified as being involved with this group, while a dozen others are known only by usernames, not their true identities. This case is open and active, Tom.
All right, Kelly O'Donnell for us. Kelly, thank you. We are also following deadly flooding down south. Parts of the Gulf Coast underwater today as a major rainmaker slams the region. Ryan Chandler reports from the storm zone in Houston.
Deadly flash floods slamming the south. In Texas, dangerous rescues to save passengers trapped in rushing water.
He's taking off. He's taking off.
This tow truck near the Louisiana border trying to pull a car stuck in high waters. These cars stranded in the Houston area amid heavy rainfall. Roads completely submerged. Houston officials issuing this warning.
People need to realize that water can come up very, very fast, and we may not be able to get to you as quickly as you think.
One woman in southern Texas was found dead, county officials say, after her vehicle was swept away, even while she was on the phone with 911.
Man, it's like tidal waves, man.
In Louisiana, torrential downpours creating chaos on the roads. This man rescuing one woman fleeing her car through waist-deep water. And feet of flooding blocking neighborhood roads in Mississippi. This truck pushing through water, reaching its doors. And in Florida, not floods, but 2 wildfires already burning through more than 800 acres, with firefighters racing to contain the flames. Large plumes of smoke rising above the suburbs west of Miami. While back in Texas and in the Gulf, millions remain at risk from a system still expected to grow more severe. Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
And that same region now on alert for what could be the first named storm of the season. Bill Cairns joins us now live here in studio. And Bill, that's not the only threat in the days ahead.
No, going to be a very difficult 24 hours for a lot of people. So let's start with Texas tonight on the coast, and then as we go throughout the next 24 to 48 hours into Louisiana and Mississippi with more torrential rain. This will likely be what is going to be Tropical Storm Arthur tomorrow afternoon, just off the Galveston, Texas coastal areas. You notice the path from the Hurricane Center. Thankfully, it's not going to intensify into a hurricane or anything like that. It is a rainfall problem. So as far as the rainfall totals go, some areas could locally get up to a foot of rain. Also, tomorrow at this time, all of our friends in areas from Missouri, Illinois, especially Indiana, a tornado threat. Not just a tornado threat, Tom, but the chance of violent, strong tornadoes this time tomorrow.
Okay, we'll stay tracking both those systems. Bill, we thank you. We have a major development tonight in that deadly military crash in California we told you about last night. A B-52 bomber crashing just after takeoff, killing 8. Now, one of the widows is speaking to NBC News, saying that plane should never have taken off. Here's Liz Kreutz.
Tonight, the wife of one of the victims in that tragic military crash outside Los Angeles making a serious accusation about the deadly flight.
The last text I sent him was, "I love you."
Lauren Smith tells us her husband, Jeremy Smith, a Department of Defense engineer who had worked at the base for a decade, was regularly part of a team that flew on B-52 test missions. But the flight that crashed, she says, was supposed to happen last week.
I know specifically on Friday, they were going to fly on Friday, and they just kept pushing it back and pushing it back. And I don't think that plane was ready to take off. And I'm so sad it did.
NBC News has reached out to the Air Force, which says they will not comment on an active investigation. On Monday night, authorities on the base said what caused the Boeing B-52 bomber to crash remains unclear.
At this point, we don't have any indication as to what the cause was of this.
Officials say the 8 people on board the flight, which burst into flames shortly after takeoff Monday morning, were a mix of military, civilians, and government contractors. The Air Force has not publicly identified the victims. Boeing says 2 of their employees were among the deceased. Lauren says her husband had only returned to work last week after paternity leave, leaving behind their toddler and 4-month-old son.
He was the best dad, and I'm so sad he doesn't get to watch them grow up. And in the midst of Father's Day on Sunday as well, it just hurts my heart so much.
And Tom, the military says they expect to release the names of all the victims tomorrow morning. Tom.
Liz Croy tonight with that interview. Liz, thank you. In Mississippi, an investigation is underway tonight into a police shooting that left a 1-year-old child dead. Officers responding to a reported shoplifting call at a Walmart. A witness saying the child's mother and her friend were carrying diapers when they left the store. George Solis has that story.
A shattered window and bullet hole in the windshield. The aftermath of a deadly police shooting in Senatobia, Mississippi that resulted in the death of 1-year-old Cohen Wiley. The shooting sparking outrage.
I'm more angry because the situation that took place really was unnecessary. What I'm hearing from what happened, it was unnecessary.
According to investigators, the shooting, which took place Sunday in this Walmart parking lot, occurred when officers responded to a shoplifting call involving 2 adults and a child. Authorities say the 2 adults, now identified by the family's lawyer as the boy's mother and her friend, tried to get away, driving toward and nearly hitting an officer. Another officer then firing at the car. In this video, officers can be seen running. One witness telling a local reporter of the 2 adults. One was carrying the child, the other a box of diapers.
Policeman shot, open fire in a public setting over allegedly some Pampers.
Investigators say the trio ended up at a local hospital where the 1-year-old was pronounced dead. One of the adults suffering critical injuries. No officers were injured. The family of Cohen Wiley now distraught and demanding answers.
I don't know anything right now. My grandson gone. I just want justice.
Tonight, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation is now investigating the shooting. George Solis, NBC News.
All right, we want to head overseas now and to President Trump at the G7, now promising to hold a news conference to read the new Iran deal word by word to reporters. Gabe Gutierrez joins us now live from Geneva. Gabe, good evening.
Yes, Tom, the president today is saying he'll probably hold that press conference and read it, that text word for word, even as top Republicans in Congress say they haven't even seen the agreement. The president, meanwhile, trying to sell the deal to European allies here at the G7. Complicating all of this, a U.S. official tells NBC News Iran has fired multiple drones towards commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz since Sunday's agreement, and that the U.S. military has been shooting them down. This all comes as average U.S. gas prices drop below $4 a gallon, with predictions that it'll fall below $3.75 by July 4th. Oil plummeting well below $80 a barrel, approaching what it was before the war. Tom?
Okay, Gabe, we thank you. And back in Washington, one of the president's D.C. renovation projects facing criticism tonight after millions of dollars were spent to turn the reflecting pool blue. It's now very much green. Ryan Nobles reports.
President Trump has made the overhaul of the iconic reflecting pool on the National Mall a top priority.
We used a dark blue. It's called American flag blue.
Trump promising a new blue base designed to be seen through crystal clear water. Even driving the presidential beast over the empty pool to tease the changes. But now visitors are surprised by what they find.
The first thing we noticed was that it was green.
Were you expecting green?
No, not at all.
Would you want to swim in that water?
No.
The goal was to have this pool a shimmering blue in time for the 250th anniversary of the country. It's obviously green, but crews are furiously working to make that a reality. Dumping hydrogen peroxide into the water, vacuuming up new algae blooms. The Department of Interior promising new technology will eventually clear things up. Experts warn completely killing off algae in such a large, stagnant body of water at the height of summer is no easy task.
When the conditions are favorable, again, high temperature, high light, high nutrient availability, they just grow.
The $14.6 million pool project, one example of the Trump administration's effort to update several D.C. landmarks. And while tourists are hopeful the renovations will work, Some are skeptical the price tag and the intense effort into the reflecting pool will ultimately deliver.
It doesn't really look like anything's changed.
Got to work on the algae control. It's kind of hard to prevent.
Ryan Nobles, NBC News, Washington.
All right, when we return in 60 seconds, the bombshell new details on Jeffrey Epstein's final days from two of his cellmates, what they said. Plus, runaway boat, the action movie stunt the Coast Guard pulled off to bring it to a stop. We'll show it to you. We're back now with a major new investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's death. The New York Times revealing new details on his final days from two of his cellmates. Here's Stephanie Gosk.
At the heart of the Epstein saga, one of the key questions, did Jeffrey Epstein actually take his own life? The New York Times releasing a months-long investigation today attempting to answer it.
That it would have entailed a massive conspiracy that would have been nearly impossible to pull off to murder him. So everything points towards the fact that he killed himself.
Relying on millions of publicly released documents and dozens of interviews with inmates, prison guards, law enforcement, and others. The report revealing notes it says Epstein hand-wrote in the days before his death, including this one. Only pain to me and others in the future, it says. Not very much fun. Epstein's cellmate Nick Tartaglione, since convicted of multiple murders, tells the Times that Epstein came back from court after being denied bail and asked, "How do you make a noose?" Tartaglione says he caught Epstein preparing for suicide twice, including trying to tie a sheet to the grate over the cell window. Tartaglione says he told the guards, but nothing was done. Days later, Epstein was discovered motionless, but still alive. What the DOJ Inspector General concluded was a possible suicide attempt. 2 weeks later, Epstein was found dead in his cell. The Times investigation focuses on Epstein's last cellmate, Efrain Reyes, who said he told Epstein, "Don't try to kill yourself in this cell," according to a document in the Epstein files. Reyes was later moved out of the prison, saying he warned guards, "Get him a good bunkie. He's not good to be alone." Epstein did not get another cellmate.
Inmates are very unlikely to hurt themselves if they have somebody near them, and so that was a huge mistake.
Stephanie Goss joins us now live in studio. Stephanie, from this reporting, it sounds like prison guards ignored multiple warnings that Jeffrey Epstein wanted to commit suicide.
Yeah, both of Epstein's cellmates warned the prison guards, but instead of Epstein getting more monitoring because he could potentially take his own life, he was instead ultimately left alone in his cell, and within 24 hours, Tom, he was dead.
Okay, Stephanie, we thank you for that. We're back in a moment. We're back now with a wild scene on a Maryland river. You can see this boat here doing donuts. The problem is no one is driving. The Coast Guard catches up and one brave coastie jumps from his boat onto the runaway vessel. The agency says the captain was thrown overboard during a high-speed turn and was later rescued. And in Boston, a World Cup update. Scottish soccer fans are having so much fun celebrating their team in the World Cup that some of the city's bars are running out of beer. This is not a joke. Sam Adams says it had to schedule an emergency delivery after the Tartan Army drained their tap room. How much beer? Well, another Boston bar said they tripled sales from St. Patrick's Day. Cheers to those fans. When we come back, the emotional surprise for a beloved janitor. Finally, there's good news tonight. When a school janitor retired, the entire school pulled off a send-off surprise. Hundreds of students lining the halls, clapping and cheering, ready with fist bumps and big hugs. All for this man, Mario Gonzalez. He's the beloved janitor at Our Lady of Good Counsel High School in Olney, Maryland. For 39 years, he's been a steady presence, always ready with a smile for generations of students. There was a time a job this meaningful felt far away. Mario was born prematurely with cerebral palsy, and doctors weren't sure he would survive. His speech is limited, but his love for life is clear. His younger brother, Jorge, helped him get the job.
I was kind of reluctant because I wasn't sure how would he be accepted by the students, but it was love at first sight. They loved him the minute they saw him.
So when Mario decided he was ready to retire, the students knew they had to go big. His sash reading, "The Legend Retires."
It was a very emotional moment. because I saw the love, and they're so happy for him.
A final send-off from a school celebrating a man who means so much.
Mario was in this beautiful atmosphere where he was accepted, where he was loved. And he felt it. He knew that that was his place.
Mario Gonzalez, congratulations on those 39 great years. That's Nightly News for this Tuesday. I'm Tom Llamas. We thank you so much for watching. Tonight and always, we're here for you. Good night. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.